Well, I'm glad to hear that. We are going to go ahead and get started. And today we're going to do back bends galore. So we'll see how that goes. I would encourage you to have two blocks and a blanket and a strap. All of them will be optional, but just in case if you want to use them, you have them. So if you need to go ahead and grab all those things or none of those things, go ahead and do that. And then the first shape we're going to find ourselves in today is child's pose. And I would like you to try child's pose today with your knees more or less hip distance apart. And we're going to make little fists that we're going to put inside of our belly. So you'll cross your thumb to your pinky finger. Then you'll wrap your other four fingers around that. You can then put the heels of your hands more towards the abdomen, pull in and up, and then you're just going to fold forward over your hands. So you'll find your hands sort of resting, not necessarily resting, but you'll find your hands placed more or less on the top of the psoas. And some of you can actually just take a couple of breaths here and just allow the belly to soften around the shape of your hands. Some of you might find that as you're here for a little bit, you might want to actually give yourself an internal massage by sort of just pushing your hands into your belly. Now, whatever you're doing, I do encourage you to breathe. You might notice that as you do breathe here, you might feel stuff lengthening along your low back, maybe even all the way down to your tail, just feeling spaciousness start to come in. And you'll just see if you can find a little bit of ease there. And then you might notice if your head is in the right place for you, and you might want to adjust that so it feels like there's one long line from the tip of your head all the way to the tip of your tail. And we'll just take 3 or 4 more breath cycles, just like this. Um, Lately, I've been thinking about the power of our breath and how I've been reading this book that Robin recommended called Somatic Internal Family Systems. And there's this whole chapter that's just devoted to breath and how our conscious breathing has such a healing power for most of us. And so, as you're here, and mostly through our practice, I want you to start to become more aware of the breath. I want you to notice where the breath feels easy. I want you to notice where the breath maybe doesn't feel so easy. I want you to notice how the inhale feels, how the exhale feels. Some of you will stay as you are. Others of you will start to reach your hands forward and bring your arms alongside your ears. If your arms do go forward, separate your hands shoulder distance apart. Press into the tips of your fingertips, lifting the heels of the hands up and away from the floor. And as you push your hands down and forward, see if you can draw your sit bones down and back. And then again, just check in with the breath and notice what you notice. What's the quality of the breath? On your next inhalation, you'll start to roll your spine up to a tabletop position. And you'll pause here and just notice how it feels to have hands and knees underneath you. On your next in breath, go ahead and pull the heart through the gates of the arms. And then as you exhale, scoop the belly, push your sit bones back to your heels, go back to that child pose position. Fantastic. Slow in breath will bring you all the way to cow shape. And a slow exhale will draw you back to child's pose. And you'll just take 4 more of these on your own. And I do encourage you to notice if you can start to slow down the breath. So that exhale back to child's pose, you really feel the organs scooping in and up towards the spine. And as you inhale forward, you might feel the tailbone leading the way, rolling you all the way up into your cow shape. Yep. You've got about 3 more on your own, and you're just paying attention. How smooth can you make your breath? How full can you make your breath as you come forward and back? Nice work. This will be our last one of these. And then the next time you come forward, you'll pause there in that cow shape pose. Go ahead and curl all 10 toes under, and then start to press your pelvis up and back to where the wall and the ceiling meet. And now when you get here, you might slowly bend one knee and then slowly bend the other. But whatever you're doing, I do encourage you to pay attention to what the breath is doing. How does the breath feel as it enters and exits your body? Where does the breath touch? Maybe in the ribs, maybe in the nostrils, maybe it's in the chest or the belly. Maybe you feel it all the way down to your pelvic floor, but you're just paying attention. Where's the breath? Okay, and those of you that are in movement, start to find a still neutral downward facing dog. Awesome. Listen very closely. Inhale, roll your pelvis forward into plank pose. Pause when you get to plank. Soften your knees to the mat, but don't let them touch. So bend your knees. Yep. Take a breath in here. Don't let the knees touch the mat. Exhale back to downward facing dog. Awesome. You're going to do 4 more of those. So inhale, roll forward into that plank pose, lowering your knees down at the very end. Don't let them touch. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. So we're doing a little bit of core work here. You'll notice that if you don't let your knees touch, as you get all the way there, it kind of makes this a little bit harder than one would think. Slow down your movement just a bit. Yep. Yes, Roberta? Okay. Awesome. Let's do one more of these. And then the next time you're in downward facing dog, good morning, Julie, you'll just go ahead and hang out in downward facing dog and just notice what you notice when you get there. How's the breath? How's the body? How are you? Okay. On your next in-breath, go ahead and press to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend your knees and walk to the top of your mat. When you get to the top of your mat, go ahead and separate your feet about hip distance apart. At this point, you might choose to just bend one knee and then the other. You might choose to grab opposite elbow. You might choose to sway a little bit from right to left. But just notice what it feels like to be right here in the breath, right here in the body. Great. Let's go ahead and come to stillness. Plant your left hand on your mat, and then inhale, you'll reach your right hand up towards the sky, and you'll just take a breath cycle here, noticing what that feels like to push down into the left hand, reach up through the right. On your next exhale, go ahead and draw the right hand back to the floor and push down into the right hand. Inhale, reach your left hand up towards the sky. Your knees bend as much as they need to. You're pushing into the right hand. You're reaching up through the left. You're just finding a rotation in the spine. Awesome. Next exhale, go ahead and lower the left hand down to the mat. Go ahead and bend the knees, and slower than you want to, start to roll up the spine, letting the head be the last thing to come to vertical. Great. Once you find yourself in vertical, just take a moment to notice where you are, how the breath is working. We'll go ahead and draw our shoulder blades forward, or rather our shoulders forward, and then we'll draw our shoulders back. And you'll just take 4 of these. And you can exhale as the shoulders come forward and inhale as they come back. Or if it feels better to do the opposite, you can do that too. But you're just paying attention to how the breath is moving in the body. Okay, we've got about 2 more. And last one. Okay, awesome. Next in breath, sweep your arms out and up and overhead. And then as you exhale, cactus, the elbows hinge at the hips, come down to a forward fold. Awesome. From here, inhale, halfway lift. And as you exhale, fold in. Maybe place your hands on the blocks or the floor, your choice. But on your next in breath, shift your weight to your right leg. Draw your left heel to your pelvis. Left heel comes to your pelvis. There we go. Inhale, send your left foot straight back. So you're in this like standing splits variation. Take a moment to pause and breathe here. And then as you exhale, you're going to bend the right knee and step the left foot long and back, low lunge. Nice. Walk the blocks back if you need to, so they're underneath your shoulders. And now you're in this low lunge shape. And you'll just take a couple of breaths here and you'll notice what it feels like. Is your low lunge a super long lunge? Is it a little shallow? No worries, but are you breathing? Nice work. On your next exhale, lower the left knee to the mat. Pat it if you need to. And then inhale, reach your left arm up, the right hand to the top of the right thigh. And you'll just take a pause here and you'll breathe. You're pushing into the right foot. You're pushing into the left foot. You're drawing those points together. You're lifting up through your left arm. And you might just stay here, hugging the ribs back. You might take a happy baby side bend over towards your right. But you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what's happening right here and right now. Nice work. Next inhalation, come up through vertical. As you exhale, reach that left hand forward and down. Go ahead and place it on a block if you'd like, or the floor. And then inhale, reach your right arm up towards the sky. And so now I've got a twist and you're just noticing what's happening here. How can you push down into the left hand, reach up through the right, and find the shoulder blades coming together on the back body? Nice work. Next exhale, lower your right hand to the mat. Step your right foot or right knee back. And now we're in a hands and knees position. Then go ahead and shift your weight forward and lower all the way down to the floor. Great. Extend the tops of the feet onto the mat. And then inhale, pull your heart forward and through baby cobra. Today, let's go ahead and squeeze our glutes. Then draw our shoulder blades together on our back and hover our hands. And we'll breathe here for 3. We'll breathe here for 2. We'll breathe here for 1. Go ahead and lower all the way down. Inhale, press up hands and knees. Exhale, curl the toes under and lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Nice work. And then you just take a moment there to breathe. Notice what you notice happening in the hips, what you notice happening in the legs, what's happening in your arms. Awesome. On your next in-breath, press to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees and then walk the feet towards your hands. When you get to the top of your space, again, separate the feet hip distance apart. Notice if this time you want to sway a little bit or not. Notice if you want to grab back of skull, opposite elbow, bend one knee or the other. But just take a couple of breaths to notice what you notice. I'm finding it very interesting that our capacity to breathe really allows us to start to tap into the wisdom of our body. And not only just the wisdom, but the stories, the experiences, the lessons. All right. If you're in movement, go ahead and come to stillness. Release the hands to the floor if they're not there. Bend the knees as much as you want to and slowly roll up the spine bone by bone, letting the head be the very last thing to come up to vertical. Nice. Once you find yourself up to vertical, again, just take the opportunity to root down through the feet again, the legs, the hips. And this time we'll just draw our shoulders up towards our ears and draw our shoulders down and just take 4 more of these. Paying attention to what that feels like in the shoulder girdle, how that might be impacting your rib cage, how that's influencing your breath. Oh, what happened there, Julie? Awesome. The next time you lower the hands, just release. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. And then exhale, cactus the arms again, hinge at the hips, come forward, forward fold. Once you touch, inhale, draw your heart forward, halfway lift. Yep, and then exhale, fold all the way in. Great. Go ahead and shift your weight to your left leg. Inhale, reach your heart forward. And then exhale, draw your right heel to your butt. Inhale, send the right leg straight back, long reach. On your next exhalation, you'll bend the left knee and reach the right foot down to the mat or floor. There we go. And you'll just pause here for a couple of breaths in your low lunge. Again, maybe hands on blocks, maybe not, but you just pause here and you notice how this is feeling for you right now. Great. On your next exhalation, lower the right knee down to the mat. Inhale, reach your right arm forward and up. Left hand comes to the top of your left thigh. And then again, we push down into our left foot. We push down into our right foot. We reach up through our right hand and we just take a couple of breaths here. If you're happy here, you stay here and you just hug your front ribs into your back body. Maybe you take a happy little side bend up and over to the left and you just pause and you breathe and you notice what's happening along the front of your right thigh. Great. Next inhalation, go ahead and center the spine. As you exhale, reach forward and down, bringing that right hand to the block or floor, slightly to the right. And then you'll inhale and lift your left arm up towards the sky, rotating towards your left. And again, you're really pressing down into that right hand. And you notice that that engages the shoulder blade. And then you can reach up through the left hand. And what does that do to the collarbones? And how does that impact your breath? Nice work. Next exhale, go ahead and lower the left hand down, slide your left leg back, find yourself back into that hands and knees position. And then from there, slowly descend all the way to the mat. Once you find yourself onto the mat, extend the tops of the feet onto the floor. And then inhale, pull your heart and sternum forward and through. Draw the shoulder blades together on the back, lightly engage the glutes, and then let's hover the hands. You can choose to stay here or then reach back through the feet so that you can then hover the legs. And we'll breathe here for 3. We'll breathe here for 2. We'll breathe here for 1. Gently lower all the way down. Curl the toes under in your choice, hands and knees or plank pose. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. You just start to check in. Can you fall into the rhythm of your breath? The in-breath followed by the out-breath. Can you find the pattern and can you find the sense of grounding that the breath can have when you fall into its rhythm? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Inhale, raise to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float to top of space. Once you find yourself at the top of your mat, again, separate the feet hip distance apart. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold all the way in. All right, inhale, halfway lift. This time we're going to pause here. As you exhale, sweep your arms alongside your hips. So palms face up or down. It's whatever works best for you. Next in breath, you'll bend your knees and bring your spine up to sit for chair pose. So we're like little skiers now. We're in this weird, awkward position. Awesome. And you just take a moment to pause here and you breathe here and you reach back through your fingertips, forward through the center of your crown, back through the pubic bone and tailbone. On your next in-breath, sweep the arms forward and up. And as you exhale, just see if you can sit a little lower. Next in-breath, stand up, reach up, perhaps you look up. And then exhale, hands come through heart center. Let's move on. Inhale, circle, sweep the arms up and overhead. This time as you exhale, we're going to bend the knees a little bit, reach the fingertips forward and come all the way down to the floor. Once your hands touch the floor or the blocks, inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold in Uttanasana. Adding on, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, stay here. Next in-breath, see if you can find a little bit more length through your spine. And then as you exhale, go ahead and draw your left heel to your left butt. Inhale, send your left leg long and back. And then as you exhale, bend the right knee, reach the left toes to the mat. So we're now still in that low lunge. We just added a bunch of crap onto it. So you're pausing here and you're breathing and you notice what you notice happening in the breath. On your next exhale, lower your left knee to the mat. And then again, inhale, sweep your left arm forward and up. As you exhale here again, you push down into the center of your right foot. You push down into the center of your left knee. You draw those points together. You reach up through your left arm. And again, happy to stay here. If you want to explore again, you go and take a little side bend towards the right. And again, we're just pausing and we're breathing. We're working with the Surya Namasakar C today. Next in breath, come up through center. As you exhale, reach that hand forward and down. Lower the left hand to the mat. Push down into the left hand. Inhale, reach your right arm up to the sky. Now again, you can stay right here, pressing into your left hand, reaching up through the right. You might choose to bend your back knee. That's your left knee. You might choose to reach around to grab your left foot. You can choose not to do any of that, but you're just pausing and you're paying attention to what's happening in the breath. How's the breath? Nice work. If you're holding the left foot, gently release it, reach the right arm up. As you exhale, lower that right hand back to the mat. Slide your right foot back to meet the left foot, hands and knees once again. Slower than you want to, lower all the way to the mat. Once you find yourself on the mat this time, you'll bring your hands alongside your hips, palms face down. From there, draw the shoulders up towards your ears. Draw the shoulder blades together on your back and inhale, lift your head and chest away from the floor. From here, let's go ahead and lift our inner thighs a little bit more. Squeeze your glutes and hug the outer hips in, and then reach back through your toes until your legs float up and away from the floor. And some of you will stay here. Some of you will reach back through the pinky fingers and float the hands up and away from the floor. And we'll breathe here for 3. We'll breathe here for 2. We'll breathe here for 1. Next exhale, lower all the way to the mat. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Curl the toes under and either press up to hands and knees or plank pose. And then make your way back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. How's the breath? How's the body? How are you? Our capacity to really not control, but connect with the breath, to shape the breath, really does impact our ability to shape the mind. And so I did start asking that question this week, well, last week, and we're just noticing how our ability to connect with the breath really changes how we experience things. On your next in-breath, press to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space, your choice. Nice work. Once you find yourself at the top of your space, again, inhale, halfway lift, drawing heart forward and through. And then exhale, fold in. All right, let's move on. Inhale, bend the knees. As you exhale, sweep your hands back alongside your hips, little skier pose. Next in-breath, you'll bring your spine up as you reach your arms forward and sit your butt low for Utkatasana, chair pose. And again, we're pushing into the big toe mound. We're hugging our outer hip in. We're reaching up through our pinky fingers, our middle finger, our ring finger. On your next in-breath, stand up, reach up, maybe look up. And then as you exhale, hands come through heart center. Let's add on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, reach the hands forward, maybe bend the knees if you want to. Once your hands touch blocks or floor, inhale, reach your heart forward and through. And then exhale, fold in. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, halfway lift, hands on blocks or floor. Keep yourself there. Next, exhale, draw your right heel to your right butt. Inhale, send your right leg long and back. As you exhale, bend the left knee, reach the right toes towards the floor. Awesome. Now you're in that low lunge once again. Hands are on blocks or floor, and you're just pausing and you're breathing. You're noticing what you notice in this shape. Next, exhale, lower your right knee to the mat. Inhale, sweep your right arm forward, left hand top of left thigh. And again, we just take a couple of breaths here. We're pushing down into the right knee. We're pushing down into the left foot. We're drawing those points together. We're hugging our front ribs in and back, and we're reaching up through our right hand. You might stay here. You might take a happy baby side bend up and over towards your left. But again, wherever you are, we're really focused on the breath. I don't really care too much as long as you're breathing. Great. Next in-breath, come up through vertical. As you exhale, reach forward, out and down. Bring that right hand underneath the right shoulder to floor or block. And then push down as you inhale and reach the left arm up. Now, again, you can stay here and you just breathe. You might just enjoy staying here. Some of you might choose to bend your back knee, that's the right knee, and reach around and grab the outside edge of your right foot. You might just not do any of that, and that's totally okay. We're just focused on the breath. We're noticing how we can keep our collarbones wide. Awesome. On your next in-breath, mindfully release that back foot if you're holding it and reach the left arm up towards the sky. As you exhale, bring the left hand to the mat. Step your left foot back to meet the right. And then again, slower than you want to, all the way down to the mat. This time, hands come back alongside your hips once again. Palms face down. Inhale, draw the shoulders up towards your ears. Draw the shoulder blades together on the back and lift the head away from the floor. Engage your inner thighs. Reach back through your feet and see if you can lift your legs up and away from the floor. From there, you might see if you can draw your heart a little further forward as you breathe in. Lift the thighs a little bit more as you breathe in, and then see if you can float the arms. Some of you will stay here. Some of you will bend both knees, and you'll flex your feet. And we're still not holding on to anything. We're just seeing if we can push our heels up, our big toe mounds up, and reach back through our arms. Nice work. Next exhale, lower all the way down. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Curl your toes under and then press up through hands and knees or plank, your choice. And then back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Yep. And you're just starting to pay attention. The more that we can stay with our Ujjayi breath specifically, it'll start to create heat in the body. It also gives us something for our mind to focus on through all things. Right? Next inhalation, press to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space. Yep. Nice job. Once you find yourself at the top of your space, separate your feet hip distance apart. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, fold in. All right, inhale, sit, Utkatasana, reach the arms forward, reach the pelvis back. Great. And this time we're going to cactus our elbows. So as you cactus your elbows, really reach out through your fingers. Hug the shoulder blades onto the back body and see if you can lift the sternum up. On your next exhale, you'll cross your arms in front of you. Draw your left elbow underneath your right and see if you can draw the backs of the palms to touch. We'll just pause here, we'll breathe here. Next in breath, you'll unwind the arms, let them come down, straighten the legs, and come to stand. Take a moment here to just let the body readjust. Awesome. Let's move on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, reach forward through the fingers, back through the sit bones. The legs are as strong or as bent as they need to be. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in, Uttanasana. Adding on, hands on blocks or floor. Inhale, halfway lift. From here, let's pause. Shift your weight over to your left foot. your right foot. Inhale, sweep your left leg back parallel to the floor. So now we're in this warrior three standing variation. You just take a moment to pause here. Make sure your back toes, your left toes are pointing straight down. On your next exhalation, you bend your right knee. You reach your left toes long and back. Pause here. Walk the hands back just a little bit if they need to. Inhale, reach your heart forward. And then as you exhale, airplane your arms back alongside your hips. Nice work. Next in-breath, push down into the feet. Draw your spine up to vertical. And then if you'd like, you add the flourish of the arms by reaching them out and up and overhead. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. The more you can push down into your big toe mound of your back foot, you might feel that come all the way up the front of your left hip. And maybe you can then extend out through the spine, maybe even take the gaze up. Great. Next exhale, we'll go ahead and lower the hands back down to the mat. Fantastic. Plant your palms, step your right foot back to meet your left, happy plank pose. Great. Take a breath in here. Next exhale, shift your weight forward. As you exhale, lower all the way down in one piece. Great. Once you find yourself down there, again, inhale, pull your heart and sternum forward and through. As you exhale, hug your shoulder blades together on your back. Go ahead and reach back through your feet and float your feet up and away from the floor. And then from here, we're going to hover the hands. So back to an earlier variation that we did. And you lift up through your inner thighs. You reach forward through your heart. You lift up through your inner thighs. You reach forward through your heart. Next exhale, lower all the way down. Curl the toes under. Inhale, hands and knees or plank. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And just noticing what you notice. We're building a bit of heat. You're noticing how that's impacting the breath. You notice how the breath is impacting the mind. Nice work. Next in-breath, raise to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float top of space. Nice work. Awesome. Once you get there, inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold in. Here we go. Inhale, bend the knees, sweep the arms forward, sit low, Utkatasana, chair pose. Great. This time we're going to exhale and cactus the arms once again. Hug the shoulders onto the back, lift the sternum up. Great. We'll hug the arms in front of us, and now this time the right arm goes underneath, the left arm on top. Maybe you double wrap the arms, maybe you don't. But we'll see if we can continue to sit low, see if we can continue to breathe. Nice work. Next inhalation, unwind the arms, stand tall. And then exhale, turn the palms forward and just take a moment to be in Tadasana. All right, let's add on. Inhale, circle, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, reaching forward through the fingertips, back through the tailbone. Once the fingers touch the mat or floor, inhale, halfway lift, or blocks or floor. And then exhale, fold in. Adding on. Highly encourage hands on blocks, but you do what works for you. Inhale, halfway lift. As you exhale, shift the weight to your left foot. Reach your right leg back. So we're now in that standing splits variation. Great. Take a moment to pause and breathe here. The next time you exhale, bend your left knee, reach the right foot back and put the toes on the mat. Hi, Anne. And then you just take a moment to find yourself being stable here. Next in-breath, reach your heart forward, make the fingertips a little bit lighter, and then as you exhale, airplane the arms back. Yep. Inhale, bring your spine up to vertical. And then if you'd like to flourish or finish with the arms, you reach the arms up and overhead, and you just pause and you breathe. And again, the more that you can press through that big toe mound of the back foot, it really steers your ship, and you'll feel that on the front of the hip, and maybe you can extend out through the spine. Nice work. Next exhale, hands come down to the mat. Shift or slide rather your left foot back to meet your right, plank pose. And then lower through chaturanga all the way down to your belly. Cool. Let's add on. Inhale, pull your heart and sternum forward and through. As you exhale, draw those shoulder blades on the back. Maybe squeeze your glutes and see if you can lengthen back through the feet. Next, inhale, reach the feet further back. As you exhale, hover the hands away from the mat. Now, this time we're going to go ahead and bend our knees. Some of you will stay right here. Some of you will reach your hands back and grab the outside edges of your feet. Maybe you'll inhale and lift, and we'll stay for 3 breaths in whatever back bend you're in. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. 3 rounds of breath. After your third exhalation, you gently release all the way down to the mat. And you'll just rest here for a breath cycle since it looks like that's what we need. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. How is the breath now? What is the quality of the breath now? Switch the opposite cheek to the mat. Yep, and you just pause and you breathe. And you notice what you notice. I think one of the most interesting things I continue to come back to is it is really hard to keep our heart open. I mean, it's kind of echoing what Steve said earlier in the class. Like everything's great in my mind as long as I don't pay attention to what's going on in the outside world. And I feel that way a lot. But we have to keep our heart open even when things are hard. That's where the strength comes in. That's where our compassion is able to come forth. All right, bring your forehead back to the mat. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Curl your toes under, and again, inhale to hands and knees or plank. And then exhale back to downward facing dog, 3 breaths. And again, when you're here, you might choose to pedal the feet. You might not. But just notice what you notice. How is your breath? How is the breath? Okay, if you're in movement, go ahead and come to stillness. Next, in breath, raise to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space. Bloop. All right, nice work. Go ahead and separate your feet, hip distance apart. And then again, inhale, draw your heart forward and through, halfway lift. Exhale, fold in. We all know where we're going. Inhale, bend the knees, sit the butt low, reach the arms up, Utkatasana, chair pose. And just pause here for a breath. Next, exhale, stand up, draw the hands through heart center. Nice work. All right, let's add on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, reach the fingertips forward, reach the pelvis back. Once your hands touch floor or blocks, inhale, halfway lift. And then at the top, exhale, fold all the way in. Inhale, halfway lift again, fingers on floor or blocks. As you exhale, sweep your left leg long and back, parallel-ish to the floor. And again, we'll just pause here. You might hover for a second, maybe lifting fingertips away from floor or block. On your next exhale, fingers reconnect with the support underneath you. Bend that right knee, reach the left toes back. Inhale, heart reaches forward and you come all the way up for high crescent lunge. And you'll notice that as we start to make things a little bit more complicated, you have to remember to take the time to breathe to ground. Awesome. And we just pause and we breathe. On your next exhale, you're going to spin your left heel to the floor and open to Virabhadrasana 2. So left heel comes down, right hand comes forward, left hand goes back. And suddenly we find ourselves in an old friend. And just notice what adjustments you might wish to make to be comfortable here. Nice work. On your next in-breath, draw your right forearm to the top of your right thigh. Extend your left arm alongside your ear and find extended side angle. And again, just take a couple of breaths here. Notice where you can find a little bit more capacity to lengthen your right ribs long and reach out through the left arm and maybe open through the chest. Nice work. Next in-breath, return to Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. As you exhale, the left hand can touch the left thigh, the right arm can reach up, and you take Viparita Virabhadrasana, so reverse warrior. And again, breathe into your right ribs. Notice how that breath is there. Nice work. Inhale, come back to warrior two. As you exhale, cartwheel the hands down to the mat. Pause here. We're going to turn both sets of toes to the right. So you'll be on the whole pinky toe edge of your back foot. You might need to wiggle walk your right foot back a little bit. Both toes to the right. Yep. And then you'll inhale and reach up through that right arm. So again, we're pushing down through the left arm. We're finding Vashisthasana variation, side plank variation. We just pause and we breathe. Nice work. On your next exhale, you'll pivot to the ball of the back foot. You'll turn your right toes to face the top of your space. You'll lower that right hand down. That was a lot of crap. And then step back to plank pose. Fantastic. Next in-breath, shift your weight forward. And as you're ready, exhale, lower all the way down to your belly. All right, let's add on. Bring your hands alongside your hips this time. Inhale, draw your heart and sternum forward. Draw your shoulder blades onto your back and lift your ears away from the floor, head away from the floor. When you're ready, you'll reach back through the feet and you'll lift the legs up from the floor. Keep lifting through your inner thighs as you hug your outer hips. Draw the shoulder blades together on the back and maybe reach the hands back and up and away from the floor as well. Go ahead and bend the knees if you'd like, and you may choose to stay here. You may grab the outer ankles. You may stay in Shalabhasana, but you've got 3 breaths wherever you are. You just pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. When you're ready, gently lower down. Hands come underneath the shoulders. Curl the toes under. Press through hands and knees or plank. And back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And you just pause and you breathe. And you notice what you notice. It's been a while since we've done more of a vinyasa type of flow. And so you're just paying attention. How is your connection with your breath right now? None of it matters as long as you're paying attention to the breath. Or rather, nothing else matters as long as you're paying attention to the breath. All right, let's move on. Inhale, press to the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float top of space. Nice work. Once you get to the top of your space, separate your feet hip distance apart, and then inhale, pull your heart forward and through Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold all the way in. Now this time as you fold in, notice if you can make the back of your skull a little heavier. And that might draw your chin closer to your sternum, but just notice what you notice happening in the back of your heart space. All right, inhale, sit your butt down, reach your arms up, Utkatasana, chair pose. All right, this time as we exhale, we're gonna draw our hands through heart center and see if we can draw one of our legs up with us. So we'll draw our left leg up. Sorry, I should have been clear about that. And you just pause and we're wobbling and that's okay. And we'll go ahead and bend that right knee, put the left foot down. And we'll try that on the other side. So push down into the left foot, draw the right foot up. Just so we have familiarity with that. Fantastic. Inhale, bend both knees. Go ahead and exhale, stand tall, Tadasana. Take a moment to breathe. Take a moment to settle. All right, let's move on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, hinge forward at the hips, reach back through the pelvis, forward through the hands. When your fingers touch floor or blocks, inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, fold all the way in. Again, highly encourage hands on blocks or floor. Inhale, halfway lift. As you exhale, extend your right leg back parallel to the floor. Great. Take a breath in here. Maybe hover the fingers away from the floor or the blocks for a second. And then as you exhale, fingers touch the floor or blocks again. Bend the left knee, step the right toes back. Make sure you're grounded through the feet. And then you'll inhale and come all the way up. for high crescent lunge. And we just pause and we breathe and we notice what we notice. We're really rooting down into our left foot, right foot. Next exhale, let's go ahead and spin the right foot down and open to Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Yeah, and we just pause. We reacquaint ourselves with our Warrior 2. Nice work. Happy to stay here, or go ahead and lower your left forearm to the top of your left thigh. Swing your right arm alongside your right ear and take a few breath cycles here, noticing what's happening across the front of your right hip. Noticing if you can draw the outer left hip in. Find length on your left side and roll your left ribs forward and under. Nice work. Next inhalation, return to Warrior 2. As you exhale, right hand comes to touch right thigh, left arm flips up. Reverse your Warrior Viparita Virabhadrasana, and you just pause and you breathe. Breathe into your left ribs. Nice work. Next in-breath, return to Warrior 2. As you exhale, cartwheel your hands down to the mat and pause. Pivot to the ball of your back foot. Really root down into your right hand. Turn both sets of toes to the left. You might need to walk your left foot back towards your right foot, and then you'll reach up through your left hand. And we just pause here in this Vashisthasana variation. Nice work. As you're ready, you return back to that low lunge. So pivot to the ball of the back foot. Turn the left toes to face the front. Press down into both hands and step the left foot back to meet the right. Awesome sauce. Next in-breath, shift your weight forward. As you exhale, lower all the way down. Adding on. Okay, so this time we'll go ahead and inhale, pull our heart forward and through. As you exhale, draw your shoulder blades onto your back body, maybe hug your glutes in. Next in-breath, reach your toes so far back that they float up and away from the floor. As you exhale, hover the arms and slide your hands back just a bit. Now this time, you're going to inhale and push down through your hands. Bring your toes to the mat and pull yourself into upward facing dog. And you might notice this feels very good today. We've got all that activation in our back body. Nice work. As you're ready, lower the knees down, curl the toes under, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Hooray, we made it. And you just pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. Nice work. Next in-breath, raise the balls of your feet. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space. Nice work. All right. From there, let's go ahead and inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold in. Hey, last one. Inhale, sit, Utkatasana, chair pose. Actually, I shouldn't say that. You have two more. As you exhale, we're going to cactus the elbows. We're going to draw our arms in front of us. Draw the right arm underneath the left. Maybe bring the backs of the palms to touch. Maybe bring the fronts of the palms to touch. Shift your weight to your left leg. Make your right heel light. Maybe float that right leg up. Maybe cross the right thigh over. Maybe put the toes on the floor. Maybe wrap them around the back of your calf. But you just pause and you breathe and you notice how your eagle pose is going. When you're ready to come out, you'll release the wind of your legs. You'll uncross the arms. You'll come to stand in Tadasana. And you'll just take a moment to pause and breathe. You pause and you breathe. Tied ourselves up, but now how does it feel when we've unwound everything? All right, one more time. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, hinge forward at the hips, reach forward through the fingertips, back through the tailbone. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, fold in. Inhale, sit, Utkatasana, chair pose. And then again, as you exhale, cactus the elbows. Go ahead and draw your elbows in front of you. Again, this time we're going to draw the left elbow on top. Or no, the right elbow on top. I'm sorry about that. Shift the weight to your right foot. Make your left heel light. Draw the left thigh up. Maybe touch The left toes to the right. Maybe wrap them behind you. But you just take a couple of breaths. You pause and you breathe. Nice work. When you're ready to come out, you unwind the legs, you unwind the arms. You stand at the top of your space and you just take a moment to just let everything settle. All right. Last Surya. Inhale, circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips, reach forward through the fingers back through the pelvis. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. As you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, and step yourself back to plank pose, Phalangasana. Great. Next in-breath, shift your weight forward and slower than you want to. Lower all the way to the mat. Okay, one more time for Urdhva Dhanurasana. Or upward dog. You'll go ahead and pull your heart forward and through. As you exhale, draw the shoulder blades onto your back. Next in-breath, reach back through your legs, keeping them active. And then as you exhale, float your hands away from the floor, slide them back about an inch. From there, you'll inhale, push down through the hands, bring the tops of the feet to the floor, reach your heart forward and through, upward facing dog pose. Awesome. And then as you're ready, exhale back to downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths in down dog, and then we'll meet in child's pose. And you might choose the same child's pose we started with. You might choose a different one. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. That's the phrase I was looking for. And when you're ready, you'll meet in child's pose. And just take a couple of breaths there. Couple of breaths. Okay. From child's pose, let's go ahead and draw ourselves up to sit. And then we'll shift forward because you'll probably need to come forward to hands and knees, curl all 10 toes under, and then push your pelvis back. Now at this point, maybe we might want our blocks. Maybe we might be okay without them. But if you're going to use your blocks, you'll bring your blocks along your heels. What we're going to do first is you're going to take your left hand, you're going to bring your left hand to your left heel, then reach forward through the right arm and find yourself in a half camel pose. We'll just pause, we'll breathe, and we'll notice how that feels. We're really pushing down onto our left heel. Maybe you can reach your chest up towards the sky. And when you're ready, you'll come out of that. We'll go to the other side. And for me, it really kind of feels like I'm making a spiral. So I'm pushing down to the right foot and reaching forward and out through the left hand. And then it feels like maybe I'm reaching towards the back right corner. And maybe I can reach my chest up towards the sky, but you're just pausing and you're breathing. Yep. You can go ahead and release out of that. Okay, one more time each side. And you just follow your own breath. You just pause and you breathe. You notice what you notice. And again, you might be using the block, you might be holding onto your heel. Go ahead and come down when you're ready. And then switch sides. And then we'll take a moment to pause and center once you've done both sets, both sides. All right. If you are happy with those variations, by all means, do that again. Otherwise, you might choose to have both hands on both feet and take camel pose or ustrasana. Well, I don't know what I called it earlier, but ustrasana with both hands. And again, you can use the blocks if that helps. You can curl the toes under if that helps. You can also have the tops of the feet if that helps. But whichever option you're going to take, we're just going to spend about 4 breath cycles in camel pose. So go ahead, take whichever option you'd like, and you just pause and you'll breathe. And you'll just notice what you notice. Maybe you take both hands, maybe you don't, maybe you do one at a time. It totally doesn't matter. It just matters how you're breathing. Nice work. And after your 4 breaths, you'll gently release And you'll make your way to downward facing dog. And we just want to be still for a moment in downward facing dog, giving the spine the opportunity to come back into its long shape. Awesome. And then from down dog, inhale, roll your spine forward into plank. And slower than you want to, lower all the way to your belly. We are done. Once you find yourself onto your abdomen, I encourage you to separate your feet at least hip distance apart. And then notice if you want the tops of your feet on the mat, if you want your toes turned in, if you want your toes turned out. And then stack your hands right underneath your forehead. So maybe you stack the hands, maybe you stack the forearms, but you're using some type of your arm limb region to support the lift of your head. And you'll just take a couple of breaths there and you'll just notice what you notice. Where do you feel the breath? Where do you feel the contact of the breath with the outside world? I think that's the important part that I'm gaining from this book is that like the breath is the intermediary between the inner world and the outer world. And our awareness of the breath is what allows us to make that transition. And that makes sense, but I've never really thought of it that way. And so you're just noticing how is your inner world impacting or interacting with your outer world? How's the outer world interacting with your inner world? Fantastic. Take 2 more breath cycles here. And then when you're done with this shape, you'll go ahead and extend your right arm alongside your ears. You'll roll over onto your right side and continue rolling onto your back. Once you find yourself onto your back, you might keep your legs long for a moment. You might bend your knees, but you're just going to take a couple of breaths to settle into this shape. And just notice, how's the breath? How's the body? How are you? If your legs are straight, go ahead and bend your knees and plant your feet on the floor. Separate your feet outer hip distance apart, and you might want to open your arms out into a T shape. If there's something near you, maybe push that aside. And then we'll widen your feet a little wider than your hips, Barbara. A little more. There we go. Let's let both legs fall over to your left. And you'll just take a couple of breaths here. Some of you will stay exactly as you are. Some of you might choose to take some other variation. Whatever you're doing, just allow yourself to breathe. Whatever you're doing, allow yourself to notice how you're breathing. Nice work. On your next inhalation, you'll gently come back through center. And then take a moment before you exhale and go to the other side. I guess I shouldn't say a moment. I mean, if you really counted 60 seconds, that might be a little longer than I'm intending. Take a pause before you go to the other side. And you just take a couple of breaths here. And again, if you took a different variation, by all means, go ahead and take the other variation. But just let yourself pause and let yourself breathe. More importantly, let yourself notice how and where you're breathing. Nice work. On your next in breath, go ahead and come back up through center. From here, let's draw our feet to each other. So draw your feet together. Draw the soles of the feet to touch and let your knees open and splay like a book. And you'll just take about 3 to 4 breath cycles here. You can press the soles of the feet into each other, or you can just not, but just notice how that impacts your pelvis, how that impacts your spine, how that impacts your breath. Then as you're ready, draw your feet back to the floor. Maybe use your hands if that's helpful. Awesome. Walk your feet outside of your hips once again, and then wrap your arms around your torso, giving yourself a hug. Now, at this point, I'd like you to just take a couple of breaths here. As you give yourself a hug, see if you can breathe into the back body. And by that, I specifically am referring to where the back of your shoulders have created space, where your heart rests. Take 2 more breath cycles here. The end of your next exhalation, you'll notice which arm is on top, and then you'll inhale and switch whichever arm is on top. And then you'll just take about 4 to 5 breath cycles here. And as you're here, I really want you to notice if you can feel the weight of your arms on the front of your body. And if you can breathe into the weight of your arms on the front of your body. Nice work. All right. On your next in-breath, you'll gently unwind. If there's any other shape or shapes that are feeling like they're calling to you, by all means, go ahead and explore them for a couple of breaths. But then when you're ready, let's make our way to our final resting pose. And so if your space is cold or you just would feel more comfortable having something on your body, by all means, wrap your body. I like that, Steve. Shake, 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 shake your booty. Never mind. I just thinking of Ella Enchanted. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum-dum. And again, those of you that are still in movement, by all means, please explore your movement. Those of you that are starting to set up for your final shape, I do encourage you to make sure you're comfortable, make sure you're supported. Right? And again, those are in movement. Continue to take your time. Once we find ourselves into Shavasana, or whatever your final shape will be, I do encourage you to make sure you're even and balanced between the two sides. So if you need to do a little extra fidgeting, by all means, do that. And then for today, notice where your hands are most being called. Sometimes it feels really nice to have the hands touching the body. Sometimes it feels nice to not. But wherever it feels like your hands most want to be, let your body respond accordingly. Okay. And then when we find ourselves in that final shape, gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. When you need to, you'll draw a breath in through the nose and another audible breath out. One more time, deep breath in and deep breath out. Allow your breath to fall back into its natural involuntary rhythm. And as the breath falls back into its natural involuntary rhythm, bring your awareness to your abdominal region. And as your awareness rests on the abdominal region, you just notice what happens as the body breathes in. And you notice what happens as the body breathes out. Anytime you notice that your mind has wandered, no worries. You celebrate that recognition and then lovingly guide your awareness back to the abdominal region. And just watch what happens as the body breathes in and as the body breathes out. I'll leave you here with you for the next few moments, the next few breaths, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Draw your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, notice if there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape. If there is, by all means, please stay here. When you are ready to move on, allow movement to re-enter into your physical form in whatever way feels good to you. Again, those in stillness, stay as long as you'd like. Those in movement, you'll make your way to your right side, and then you'll pause there for a couple of breath cycles. If you're on your side, you'll gently start to roll your chest more towards the floor. Press into your left hand, walk your spine up to vertical. And then when you are vertical, I do encourage you to sit on something, whether it's a block or a blanket, maybe even your feet. When you're upright, take the opportunity to sit well. So if you want to separate the flesh from underneath your sit bones and your support, do that. If you need to roll the shoulders, go ahead and do that. If you need to circle the neck, go ahead and do that. And then when you feel like you're balanced and complete with that, go ahead and come to stillness. And then today we're going to do something a little unusual. You're going to take one of your hands, and with your eyes still soft or closed, I want you to find your sternum. Yeah, so sternum's in the front. It's the middle bone that connects the two halves of the ribs. And I want you to just breathe into your sternum. So just breathe into your hand. As you notice this, notice if you notice any movement. Does the sternum come up a little bit as you breathe in? And then you'll slide your hand down just a little bit. So now you're going to go for your xiphoid process. So it's at the bottom of the sternum, top of, technically, your diaphragm. And just notice what happens as you breathe there. You notice that this area maybe goes forward a little bit and out. Okay. Go ahead and keep drawing your hand down towards your belly button. And just notice what happens when you breathe into this area. And very gently, you'll just go ahead and release that hand. And now you'll breathe all the way down to your pelvis. And as you breathe down into the pelvis, notice if that gives you this weird connection where the more you breathe down, you find an elongation up through the spine. Our breath is that anchor between the inner world and the outer world. It's, I think, the connecting force that allows us to remain compassionate. It's the part that allows us to remain connected even when things feel really hard. And so as you take these last few breath cycles here, I invite you to remind yourself that, holidays can be stressful. Families can challenge us in a way that no other human being seems to be able to do. So the more that you can remind yourself to come back to your breath, you can connect with your inner needs and be able to express them in a way that's loving, as well as be able to take in the needs of the other person and respond in a way that's loving. We'll go ahead and complete our practice by taking a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Guide your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Really feel the weight, the connection of your palms pressing into each other. Again, notice the thumbs into the sternum and that little lift that comes from the sternum. And then gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a deep breath in. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. Draw your thumbs to your third eye. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. And draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open. The light, the breath, the compassion within me honors and salutes the light, the breath, the compassion within each of you. Namaste.